shit. Alright, stop. Land! G'day, thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be looking at what's inside this Expedition military helicopter. So this isn't obviously actually a military helicopter, but that's what it's sold as online on a cheap Chinese website. So it comes in this package here. So Expedition, it's got a military person there, picture of the helicopter, 6 axis, 4 gyro, and then I think, yeah, just here it's got a whole bunch of actual features. So it's got obstacle avoidance apparently, 6 axes, so gyroscope, optical flow positioning. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but it does have a couple of what appears to be a maybe infrared sensor down the bottom. So it could actually just be optical flow there. So it could actually just be sort of measuring the distance for landing, I guess, for that. Image transmission, so you hook it up to an app through Wi-Fi. So again, app control. It's got a G sensor, which I assume that kind of looks like a phone, so maybe you can control it by phone. And then apparently HD photo and video, which I highly doubt, but that's what it is. There's the box. There you go. It's again Expedition KY202, and I assume that's probably the brand. And there's just a couple of different models that they make. So standard, 1 camera and 2 cameras. So we've got this one, the grey one with 2 cameras. Alright, so the helicopter itself just has a little battery there, and then the remote control. Little flip so you can put your phone there, powered by a bunch of batteries on the back. I think they're, oh yeah, the AA, so 3 AA batteries. And then that turns on. The helicopter just has a little on-off thing down the bottom here. And then lights up all these LED lights, which again, obviously military helicopters don't just have random flashing lights for the fun of it. And then if it connects, which I think when it's flashing, it's trying to connect. So let's just turn it off and back on. Maybe I need to do something with the controller actually. There we go. Alright, so that's bad. Maybe you got to turn this on first. Usually I think in RC you turn the transmitter on first and then the receiver, so the receiver's always got something to lock onto, but this might work differently. Alright, there you go, and then there's a whole bunch of these buttons here, which I honestly don't know exactly what they all do. There is a light one, so you can turn the lights on and off, and then assume that, okay, yep. Should have pressed that one, but that's obviously takeoff. And then that one is like sort of slow landing. It didn't really want to land. That's going to be a little gyro stabilize bit, and then whatever that is there as well, I'm not sure. And then there's a speed control as well, so maybe you can change how fast it reacts. This one just has up and down. Cool, so it's got, you just press it up a little bit and it changes the speed and then holds it there. But it just doesn't want to go down. Okay, that went alright. And then obviously left and right, forward, backwards, and there's a little distance thing there as well, so that might be for that optical flow thing we were talking about. Alright, so I'll turn the controller off and turn the helicopter off, and let's have a dig and see what's actually inside this stuff. So the battery, as I mentioned before, just slides out here. There we go. So it's a nice little package. It just says little, okay, there's little clips, obviously very fragile. I just broke that one clip there. Maybe we'll use a screwdriver, but I'm going to assume it's just a little lithium ion cell in there, probably 1.2 volt. And it does have a micro USB charger there, so you just plug it into a computer and charge it at the 5-ish volts that comes out of a USB port. Yeah, there we go. So it's a, sorry, not 1.2, so 3.7 volts. There we go, 3.7 volts, 550 milliamp, little battery. And then just, yeah, just a small little charging circuit there. There's an LED on there, a little resistor. Okay, this side's got a couple more things, so not sure if that'll focus, but there we go. There's just a little microcontroller. Oh, actually, it's not even a controller, it's just a U1, so it's probably just going to be, probably just a voltage regulator, actually. Voltage regulator, a little diode, just so power only goes into the battery from the charger, and then a resistor and a couple little capacitors. So it doesn't really look like even a charging circuit. It's just going to be a little regulator. So when you plug the USB in, it's probably 5 volts or 5-ish volts, and this is 3.7, so it's probably going to be charged at just above that. So say 3.8, 3.9 volts. that regulator there will literally just regulate that voltage down from the USB, and that's it. That's all that's inside this little battery. I'll just put that together so I don't lose any of the bits. Alright, and then the helicopter itself. So there is this, I guess, this little, what are these called? Little landing feet that are just screwed on. So I'll just unscrew that off real quick. And then it looks like it's just actually two clamshells together, so it's got a right and a left side. But let's have a, before I take it apart, let's just actually have a look at it. So starting in the back, it just has a little propeller back here with a tiny little motor there. So that's going to be for the pitch forward and backwards. We've obviously got the two main blades. So there's going to be a, probably, yeah, this one here has a shaft that's going to be hollow, and then that one there will come through it, because these will counter rotate. So one will rotate, say, this way, and this one will rotate this way at the same time. So the reason that's happened is just to counteract that torque. So normal helicopters usually just have, well, the helicopters that have one set of blades have a balancing one on the back that pushes a certain way to counteract that torque. Otherwise the helicopter would just spin a certain way. So this one doesn't. This one's got two set of main blades, and they counter rotate, balancing the torque. So this one here is actually going to push down or up. So that's then just going to pitch. It's really hard to show. It's going to pitch the whole helicopter forward and make it fly forward, or pull it back and make it go back. And then on the front, we've got a camera there, and that just looks like either an LED. Yeah, I think that's just going to be an LED. Just an LED, either for just a color, or maybe infrared or something. I don't know. Don't really know the purpose of it is. Again, that camera, and then on the bottom here, we've got another small camera there. And then this here, that little bulge there is just a, most likely an infrared LED because of that dark color to it. And then that's just going to be an infrared receiver. So it looks very similar to this one. So I reckon that is probably an infrared receiver. I just don't see any emitters out the front. So that's probably just going to be to measure distance, or at least this bottom one here, for that landing. So it'll just shine a light down, bounce back up and come into it, and it'll just read that time of flight to know the distance that it is from the ground. On the back here, we literally just have a strip of LEDs that are just stuck onto this tail rotor section here. And we sort of saw they were just multicolored before. So they are actually multicolor ones. You can see the difference. So this one here is, I think this is the white one because it's got the yellow there, yellow coating on it to cancel out the blue of the actual LED. And then these two here are probably going to be, I think it was purple and green, I think, or whatever the colors are. So that's just there. And then we again just have that on and off button. But we can see these little clips here. So it's got two down the bottom, and I think it's got a couple up the top. Oh, maybe not, maybe they're hidden. But these clips there will just hold the actual clamshell together. So we should just be able to pry that open. Oh, and this gap here is just where the battery slides into. So that is nice to have the battery detachable, which I think is pretty common. Just so once it does run out, you can just swap it out pretty quickly and keep flying. Because the batteries can probably take a little bit to recharge, and I don't imagine they would last for too long. Alright, so I'll just try to crack this open. Okay, so it does actually have a whole bunch of little screws there, just holding it on the side. I thought it was just clipped on the bottom and the top, but it does actually have a whole bunch of screws. Now this is extremely thin, probably, I'd say about 1 millimeter thin, or millimeter thick plastic. That's just super flexible. But really, it doesn't probably need all that much. And the flex of it can actually be a benefit for it. So if you do crash it, that flex can actually absorb some of that energy instead of just cracking. And obviously this is going to be really lightweight, as the helicopter is not powerful at all. So that's one side there. And then actually just opening that up, it all just sort of falls apart. So get a good look at that before it'll start pulling stuff out. So the main assembly, that sort of tail, the main rotor there with the two main rotors with the two motors, they're just held in place in those little bits there's little standoffs there. There's two little tabs here that just slide right into that on each side, so that holds it together. That makes sense why there's screws on this and not just clipped, because it would actually have to hold this together. So that's that whole assembly there. I'll try to take this out nicely because it's a bit of a mess. There's a whole bunch of bits here just held in, and then that main PCB. Okay, cool. So that main PCB does actually look like it is held in there nicely. And then we've got one more screw here for the back sort of tail, and I wouldn't be surprised if that just completely pops off as well. Yeah, all right, there we go. So that's the other side of that little clamshell. So exactly the same, just obviously symmetrical, but that's what kind of holds everything together, which is really interesting to see that they just went and screwed everything straight to this and not have its own little bit that holds it inside. All right, so we'll try to untangle this stuff. So that's going to be the front camera that we just saw. I wonder if I can get that. Oh, yep, I can get that apart as well. So it's just actually, that doesn't see. I think that's going to be glued in, so I won't pry that out just so I don't break it. But there's just a camera module there that just looks forward, and it is on this little tilt sort of circular bit. So when this here clips on, you might actually be able to tip this up and down within this assembly here. So yeah, you can sort of rotate that up and down. Well, actually, it would go this way, but yeah. Awesome. All right, we've got that. That goes to this board here, which just has a microcontroller on there. It's got a little crystal oscillator, so that's for the microcontroller, just to give it a nice steady frequency. The crystal oscillator will just oscillate at a very specific frequency. And then on the other side, so that's just where the camera comes to. So that front camera there, and then we've also got this other camera. Probably looks very similar to the front one, and that's just what's going to be facing downwards. And then on the other side, we've just got there's a little voltage regulator just there, and a couple of little capacitors. That's very small, so that's pretty clear. Actually, that picks it up all right. And then we also have this antenna here as well. So this is probably, oh, okay, I reckon what they've done is, because there's not much going to it, so I think this might be separate transmitter on this one and another transmitter on this. Yeah, there we go, there's a second antenna. Okay, so this here is what would connect to your phone through Wi-Fi, because that's what it said on the box. It said the Wi-Fi, yeah, app there in the middle, Wi-Fi control. So this module here just simply gets power, positive and negative, from the main board. I'm not sure what this third one is. It says, I think it says X1 on the actual board, but I'm really not sure what that is. But this board here would just be doing the camera. So this will be that little camera, or the two cameras. The two cameras will come onto the board. The board will have Wi-Fi that'll pair with your phone, and then that'll stream directly to your phone. I think it looks completely independent of this board here, which is probably going to be the actual flight control and the rest of it. So actually, let's start on this side. So we've got another antenna here, and that antenna is going to go to this guy here and talk to the controller. On this side here, there's really not much to it. There's just these little pins which click onto the battery. So however that slides in, that just clicks on. And that's pretty much it. There's just a few tracks. But then on this side here is where we've got a lot more stuff happening. So we've got that switch there to turn it on and off. We've got an infrared emitter there and an infrared receiver. So that receiver, well, the emitter will emit the infrared light, and then it'll bounce off whatever surface it's looking at, and then the receiver will actually just pick that up and be able to measure that distance. On here, we've got, that looks like a microcontroller there. So that's probably going to be doing all of the control for it. We've got a crystal oscillator there, again, to determine the frequency for this. And here we've got, I think, is what's going to be the actual gyroscope. So that's six axes gyro is probably going to be here. So X, Y, Z, and then it's going to have the roll, pitch, and yaw about those axes as well. Not sure what that is. It could be another little crystal oscillator there for that gyroscope. It's got a little voltage regulator as well, a couple of capacitors around it and resistors. And then on this side, that's just going to be another, actually, I don't know, some sort of a controller. Maybe even a little motor driver, because it does have, yeah, so, okay, cool. So it does, on the tail, it's got a motor, and then it's obviously got the two motors for the two main shafts. So my guess would be that there would actually be the motor controller for all those, because there's these bigger terminals here that the power goes out to the motor, so little motor controller. And then again, just a whole bunch of smaller little resistors, a couple more voltage regulators there as well, and that's it. So this board here would be the flight computer of this, basically doing all the control, communicating to the actual remote control for it, and then this one here would be the camera one. And then we've got these really thin wires here, so it doesn't look like they actually have any insulation on the outside, but they do. It is just that copper inside, and then it's dipped in a certain solution that dries around it and actually provides that insulation there. So this is very similar to what's used for wired headphones, or back in the day when wired headphones were a thing. It was just that, because there's just a really thin layer of insulation on the outside, and the cables can just sort of be touching together and takes up very, very little room. So we've got 4 wires going to this back tail assembly, and 2 of them, as we can see, are for that LED strip, and then the other 2 are just going to be for that rear motor back here. Awesome. And then I think the only other bit here we've got is just that main rotor, or the main 2 rotor assembly. So maybe this way is good to look at it. So there we go, we can see that. This will be for the top one. So this motor here just has a little set of gears there into that little gearbox. And as that spins, that just spins that top rotor there. If I can maybe show it this way. So there we go. So we should be able to only see this motor here turn as I turn the top rotor. And then as I turn the bottom rotor, the other motor should turn there. There we go. So this motor here is what powers that bottom one. We just have these sort of replaceable blades on the side, and then just a counterbalance up on top. So inside here is just a little bit of metal just to balance that out as this spins, to give the whole thing a nice balance. And then I don't really want to go pulling this aside too much, because there's a lot of little gears, but I'll try to pop this off and see if I can actually see the gears without having to take them out. Because sometimes gearboxes just don't go back into place all that nice after you've taken them out. Okay, so yeah, we've just got that motor coming to one gear and then going to another one, and it's just a step down reduction of, I don't know how much, but it's got a couple of gears there of reduction to it. So that's this one, and then we've got that other side of this other, so I'll show that a bit closer. There's that secondary blade there, and then we've got that top primary blade there. Or maybe I probably shouldn't call them secondary and primary, because they're both the same, do the same thing, but one's on top, one's on the bottom. Alright, so that's just a little gearbox there. I'll click that back on just so I don't lose any of those gears. Okay, I did put that on the wrong way. It does actually only go one way because the gears aren't symmetrical. This one here is actually a little bit lower, so that's going to be this way then. Yep, there we go, snaps on very nicely. Awesome. And then, as I sort of said before, there's just going to be this main shaft here is going to be hollow, and then it's going to have this thinner shaft within that shaft rotating freely. So that's how sort of these 2 shafts are done on here. All right, so that's it. That's actually all there is in that helicopter. Let's have a look at the controller as well while we're at it to see what's in there. So I'll just put that aside. That can sit there, and then we've got the actual controller itself. So as I already sort of said before, we just got these 3 batteries here, and then it's just got a few screws on this side, so I'll take them off. Okay. There we go, very simple, easy thing. So the whole back section of the back clamshell has the battery compartment actually molded into it, and then just has these metal bits added to it, as we've got there, and then just soldered straight on, and that just goes straight to the board. So the board, we've got a whole bunch of these buttons, just little tactile push buttons, little LED, an antenna there, a little piezoelectric speaker that just makes that little beep when we turn it on. And then we've just got these little joysticks underneath here. So just that little metal box, and then it's just got a potentiometer there as well. So as you push this up or down, whichever direction, that potentiometer there changes or turns. it's got a little wiper on the inside, and that changes the resistance that goes through it, which the board measures, and then it actually just knows the position of that. And this little thing just snaps on. This side here we've actually, so this one we've only got up and down, there's no left and right, but this one here we've got up, down, and we have left and right, so you can do that full rotation. So the way that's done is the same sort of concept, it just has two potentiometers there instead, so you can actually go any direction you want and they will both turn. That's it, and then the board itself, there's just another LED on here, but that's it, that's all that's sitting on the front. On the back, very simple, so a whole lot of tracks that actually just guide everything across this whole board, and then we've got the actual main microcontroller there, little crystal oscillator that'll just give the microcontroller a really steady clock, and then that'll just be able to use that for the transmission and to give it a nice frequency as well. Little voltage regulator, a couple of resistors, I think that's a little capacitor there, and then another couple voltage regulators there as well. So really not much to it at all, just a big PCB because it takes up that room, but this whole little set here is what's pretty much doing everything on this. There we go, so I think that's it. There's a lot to it, but all in a small little package. Not sure where that actually went. Oh, okay, that goes on the side here. Obviously, this is not an actual military helicopter. It's just for fun, just marketing. Cheapo little thing, but really this should last quite a while. Probably the battery is going to be the first thing that goes. But we all know that not everyone's a good pilot, so this is going to crash and blades will break, things will bend, this will go out of alignment, and the fun will be over. But until then, have a great day and thanks for watching.